before we jump into today's episode, let me say a quick word about some of the feedback we got from an episode that we posted about a week ago. It was the kind of the second volume, part 2 of our series about strip clubs. A series I have a feeling is going to go on forever because these get a big response from people. We got quite a few messages and comments, and I wanted to say thanks for those. Thanks for letting us know what you think. Thanks for sharing it with a friend. Don't forget that if you have questions for us, questions, comments, hopes, dreams, aspirations, anything you want to share with us, God knows we need the help. You can go to our website, KrakCast.pl. All of our contact information is there, so keep the messages coming. So for today's episode, we're talking about big news here. If you're a political junkie here in Krakow, the local elections are coming up next month, end of October. Is it end of October?
End of October, yeah.
October, yes.
October 21.
Had to get confirmation of that. End of October for, of course, the biggest office on that ticket is office of mayor, so mayoral election. And that's what we're talking about today, the big political prize here in Krakow. And joining us for this discussion once again is our friend, Dr. Mike. Mike, welcome back.
Hello there, everybody.
All right, Mike, we're looking to you to make us look serious and credible on the subject of political discussion, local politics and stuff like that. So please don't let us down. Let me tee it up for you here. For those of you listening who might not know, the current mayor, Jacek Majchrowski.
Professor Majchrowski.
Excuse me, Professor. He's been mayor since about 1932. And looking for his 22nd term in office. No, it's ridiculous. He's been in office since 2002. He is 71 years old. And about 2 or 3 months ago, he surprised the local political scene by announcing he would seek a 5th term. It was kind of assumed that he was on his way out. It was time to retire, but no, he wants to do it again. And so he's back. And Mike is going to tell us about what his chances are like, along with the field of candidates he's running up against. So, Mike, take it away.
Well, yeah, like you were saying, Majchrowski's been here forever. At the end of this term, it's going to be 16 years. Nobody's been mayor of Krakow that long ever in the history of the city. People discuss whether or not he's actually done well. That's an issue for your own personal opinion, which I'll definitely be throwing in a bit of my opinions here as well. His background, he was born in 1947, academic background, lawyer, historian. He was basically involved in politics from day one. He was a member of the Communist Party, kind of gave up on that in the 80s, but then he got involved with SLD, the...
kind of the post-communist extension of those people. Yeah?
Not kind of, but the post-communist. It's whoever was in the Communist Party turned into SLD.
So are you suggesting that maybe he got his point of entry was into politics was as a true believer for the communist cause?
I don't think anybody was a true believer. It was all cynical politicians. They were the party in charge. They wanted to keep it that way. They set things up in the 90s for themselves.
If you wanted to have a responsible position, you had to be a communist.
Basically. No, yeah. In any kind of workplace, you had to be a member of the party. And he was a member of the party. And
a functionary, basically.
Basically, yeah.
A hack.
Yeah. But he gave up his ID when he became mayor of Krakow for SLD, technically, because any higher executive of office here it's usually expected, just like the president of Poland, he's the president of all of Poland, not of a given party. We all know that's BS, but it's a nice little symbolic gesture.
Take us through. Majchrowski has kind of a weird and complicated history with party affiliation. Where does he stand now, and where has he been?
Now he's generally an independent. He's definitely left-leaning. Like I mentioned earlier, he was with SLD up through the 90s. He was also the voivoda of Krakow, because many people might not realize that, but before there were these 16 voivodeships in Poland, we had a lot more. Basically, every major city.
I don't know the number. We'll look it up.
Yeah, it's like 40-something.
Yeah, it was like 3 times more.
Yeah, and he was the voivoda of Krakow at that time, just as it was being transformed into Małopolska, like in the late 90s, early 2000s. Honestly, I don't remember that right now. I was a kid back then. Then he stuck around with SLD. He was involved in a lot of little commissions. He strayed away from the party in the late 90s when he started his own little political career here in Krakow.
I have to say, sorry to interrupt. You're going through this history. I don't hear any references to having a real job at any point.
Well, he was dean of a law university. I believe it was University of Kielce for a while. But he's been academic all his life, writing books on history, mainly about 1920s Poland, like interwar Poland.
And calm down, you people who work for the government or your parents work for the government. Okay, calm down. I'm not trying to offend you, but what I mean is that, he doesn't have any experience in a business that has to worry about payroll and, the realities of the marketplace. It's government from beginning to end, basically.
Like even his quasi-real jobs of running some private universities, they're still universities.
Oh, we're going to talk about his affiliations with private universities. We'll get to that soon as well. So do you see him as an ideologue or just as a managerial type?
He's extremely pragmatic when it comes to politics. He doesn't really talk about any ideologies, mainly because that might scare away potential voters. But there's kind of weird thing about him. Nobody really knows what side he stands on any issue. He just kind of what the polls are saying at a given moment and what his group of friends want him to do. And everybody I talk to, I have not been able to yet find a single supporter of his, but he always wins the elections.
That's a good point you make. You won't find too many people who are cheerleaders, but he wins again and again. Now, before we move on,
vanilla is the word.
Vanilla?
Yeah,
no, probably. Before we move on to the upcoming election this year, let's focus on him for a bit more. 4 terms, 71 years old. It's hard to escape the impression that he's just trying to keep other people out of the office at this point.
That's part of it, but another problem is that after you've been in politics so long, you set up your networks, like people work in administration here, companies that you sign deals with there, and they're all interested in him staying in that same position as well. This is not a secret. There was even talk that he really didn't want to do it, but he was nicely persuaded to keep on running because, there are people that have their interests, special interest group, basically.
Now, the suggestion behind that, when you say special interest and there are, networks and people who want him to stay in power, the suggestion there is something not entirely legal all the time, little special deals and, special access to
what
the
are you saying?
government.
In politics, people aren't being honest?
I know.
Look, I believe in a higher purpose for politics.
So you're saying, he's the front man for moneyed interests, basically?
This is something that people talk about all the time. There's no specific allegations that you can really put in front of there, but there's a lot of things that just kind of smell funny. And, Wyborcza writes about this a lot, which is, I believe, not the best source of information, but, even a broken clock is right twice in a day. With Majchrowski, the way the city's been developed in the last 20 years, a lot of people say that it's gone great, but then you compare it to Wrocław or something else, some other places, which are, 10 years ahead of Krakow.
Yeah, you look at the infrastructure projects around here, in particular, the stadiums, the arena, ice, what am I missing? Extension of the tram lines in different places. Can we credit him for that, or would that have taken place with or without him?
It would have happened with or without him. That's like natural development of a city. And with the stadiums, those were money pits, basically.
Yeah, they're hardly successes. We talked about that before, by the way. They're hardly successes. Yeah, that's true.
But people made their money along the way, like the construction companies, the people involved with that, the administrative costs. Millions of taxpayer dollars, or zlotys, went into private pockets when it happens. Whenever there's a big infrastructure program, a lot of money gets moved around.
But with the way the government is set up here, I guess it's the same on all Polish cities, but the office of mayor is actually a rather powerful position in terms of setting spending priorities, yeah?
Yeah, as an executive, he has a lot to say, more so than just, even when you're talking about parliamentary politics, on local government officials here, the mayor can really much decide on a lot of issues.
I think it's a valid question. If I were his opponent, and again, we'll talk about them in just a second, I would say, look, Mr. Majchrowski, you've been in office for 16 years. What is, what's on your agenda now? What have you yet to get to that you didn't have a chance to get to in the last 16 years? What kind of promises are you going to throw out to the public about, vote for me, I need 4 more years to do what exactly?
He really had nothing more to say right now. He's just basically saying,
he just wants the office.
Steady as she goes, basically. Yeah. And there's nothing left to do. I mean, the city's doing, you want to expand everything, make it better. But that's basically what all the candidates are saying right now. We want better infrastructure.
Less trees, more bikes. Yes. No. Yes. Oh, I forget.
Oh, the trees are
different
hilarious.
Show, Josh. Different show. All right. Speaking of all the candidates, take us through a list of the people who hope to replace him in City Hall.
Well, there's pretty much half a dozen of them, and the main competitor is Malgorzata Wassermann, a Krakow local, born and raised here, went to university here, studied law here, practiced law here. Family also political ties. Father was a politician in the same party as she is now, though she's kind of not in the party. She's semi-independent. And she's really giving her a run for his money. In some polls, she's even ahead by a point or two. In other ones, she's behind a percentage or two, usually around like upper 30s, nearly 40%.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing in the last week. They're pretty much neck and neck. Now, as we record this, we are about 6 weeks out from the election. And yeah, Wassermann and Majchrowski are roughly, dead even in the polls. What you said about her coming from a political family, that's kind of consistent with my own impression of what I've kind of seen, what I've learned in my time here in Poland. It's hard to imagine someone rising to that level without being a consummate insider or a family member of an insider. I just don't see this as a political culture where an outsider has a snowball's chance in hell of rising to the top.
Unfortunately, isn't that with politics just about everywhere in the world? Once you're in,
True.
When they bring somebody in, they prefer bringing in somebody they know or the kid of somebody they know. It's a small, closed elite group. Outsiders here have a lot of. When you look at the rest of the list of candidates right now.
Oh wait, sorry. Before we move on, sorry. One thing. What's Wassermann's political affiliation in terms of party?
Peace. PIS. Prawo i Sprawiedliwość.
Is she? She's a true soldier for the cause, or not really?
No, not really. She ran as an independent to get into parliament. She's in like the kółko, the klub, but she's not like a full-blown member of the party. At least from what I can figure out, it's very odd with her. And sources basically say that they were not sure who to run in this city. She was a popular candidate. She's a known name. There's a lot of name recognition there. But she's definitely not one of those like party members that is, for the cause, if it's for whatever camp in peace she wants to be with. Because, besides, contrary to what a lot of people think, peace is not very unified. There's a few large camps there fighting and bickering between each other. They're just really good at putting up a front, especially in the media, to look like they're united.
The Wassermann candidacy seems like a good marriage of convenience because Wassermann can hold the banner for peace, and in exchange, she can kind of take advantage of the organizational structure and abilities of a national outfit like Peace.
Yeah, because
so
Peace
both
right
sides
now
can benefit from this.
That Peace can say like, oh, we want a mayor in a major Polish city from Majchrowski, which he has his own independent background, but he's also connected with PO. So Peace is a number one rival. Plus, it also keeps Wassermann out of like parliamentary problems, and so she's not a threat to anybody there.
This is that 3D chess we hear so much about.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interests here that are converging and having her run and hopefully win.
So after Majchrowski and after Wassermann, I think there's a big drop-off to the no-hope.
Yes, right? It drops by 20%. You've got Łukasz Gibała who's in the mid-upper teens when it comes to current polls. He doesn't have a chance to win, but he's definitely attacking Majchrowski. He doesn't like Wassermann at all. He says that a choice between the two of them is no choice at all.
Sorry, what's his party affiliation?
He's got his, it's Logiczna Alternatywa. It's not really in a party. He's got a background in PO. After PO, he joined up with, if anybody remembers, Palikot.
Yeah.
Interesting businessman, I guess you could put it that way. Started his own political party after becoming a member of parliament with PO. Then it was called Ruch Palikota, then now switched into Twój Ruch.
Oh my God, I already have a headache.
Yeah. And Gibała was involved with that, then he stepped away, and now in Krakow he has...
Wait a second. What I'm trying to get at is Gibała's candidacy peeling voters away from Wassermann or from Majchrowski? Is he splitting one side or the other?
Basically, I wouldn't say either. It's people that don't like either of those sides. He's collecting those votes. So like your PO votes.
That should be a really big party in Poland. The party of people who don't like the others. That should be like the number one party in the country.
Well, that was basically cookies during the last round of elections.
Okay, so Gibała's got his own people. So he's not necessarily appealing to Wassermann voters or Majchrowski voters. Okay. So Gibała, he's all respect to him because he ran last time. He ran 4 years ago.
He lost as well. Third place as well, I believe.
From what I've read, he seems like a really good guy. And he's got a very successful career in business, and he's very civic-minded, and he obviously cares about the city. And I wish him the best, but he just seems like one of those guys who's doomed to always come up short.
And he basically throws out the same kind of arguments that all the other candidates throw out. It's like, we need more trees, we need a cleaner city, we need more trams,
I'm for rainbows and against cancer.
It's like, I can get behind that. And
Exactly. And after that, we're getting to the real no-hopers.
Then we get into the single digits.
3% people.
Like Konrad Berkowicz, he's the guy involved with the Wolność party here in Krakow. Korwin-Mikke might be a name that some people recognize. It's a semi-libertarian party with a dash of nationalism and conservatism thrown in there.
Now, these are the parties that will only ever get a whiff of power as part of a coalition. They're never going to win outright. Yeah?
No. Funny thing with him... With Konrad Berkowicz, he actually ran for parliament last time around, and he got a decent amount of votes. But because of the proportional voting system here in Poland, their party didn't get over the 5%. So even though he won more votes than people who actually became representatives in the Krakow area, he didn't get a seat in parliament.
Bizarre.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and assume, and I think it's a very safe assumption, let's go ahead and assume that Wassermann and Majchrowski will win the first round, which is October 24th?
October 21 is the first round of municipal election.
And then 2 weeks later, it's the head-to-head runoff.
It's the runoff. It's
the real deal.
Fight.
It's the final countdown, yeah. Let's go ahead and assume it's going to be those two, because it will be. Again, we are 2 months away from that now, but any gut feelings on which way things are going to go?
You know what? If I had to put my money down right now, I would say Wassermann. Mainly because it's really close. A lot of people that are sick of Majchrowski might just decide, screw it, I'm voting for the PiS candidate just because it's not Majchrowski.
So the pendulum swings the other way.
Yes, I think it will be close. Another thing is, a lot of Majchrowski voters, supporters, backers are older people. It's like retired people in the system. And for them, PiS is actually kind of an interesting party to back. They might be enticed by all the entitlement programs for Senior Plus. Yeah. So
they trust them PiS on the national level, so why not on the local level?
Exactly. And, and they just might be tired of Majchrowski as well. They might be used to him, but they might say, this new girl isn't so bad. Let's try her.
Interesting point about mayors. I think not just in Krakow. I think it's true everywhere in many countries, actually. I looked at the numbers from the last election here in Krakow, and in Polish people call it the frequencja, the turnout, basically, was about 35% of eligible voters. 35%. And Majchrowski won about 60% of that. So let's call it 20%. Let's make it easy. Call it 20%. So 20% of all eligible voters decided something that important, right? So this is very typical of elections everywhere. I think it happened with the mayor of New York City, actually, who was voted into office by something like 16% of all the voters in New York City. 1 in 6 is pretty much a standard. People don't care. I mean, they care. They might be interested, but they don't care enough to actually go to the polls.
They'll bitch and moan, but they won't show up when it matters.
And let's say here in Krakow, 20%. Now, it's the most committed, involved 20%. It's also in American politics, they call it the ground game. How you can get your people to actually go to the polls. So a minority can seize control. It makes it sound like a revolutionary thing, but they can win an office like this if they get their organization to get their voters to the polls, because most people are apathetic. They just don't have the interest to make them get out and vote. Does that sound like a situation here where, Wassermann, if she has the better ground game, if she has the better organization, she can win this?
Definitely, because PiS does have a ground game going. That's just PO and all the parties really can't compare. But this goes back to what I was saying about senior citizens. They have nothing better to do. I mean, it sounds horrible. I think voting is important, but one of the main reasons that participation of seniors in democratic countries is so high is because, they have more free time, they discuss, and they go out and vote.
That's right.
So that's always a constituency that people go after.
And the 26-year-old hipster who has really strong opinions about it probably doesn't go and vote.
But I liked it on Facebook. Why did it lose?
I took a selfie with that guy. What happened?
There was 13 hashtags on my Instagram. What the hell? This isn't fair.
Yeah, good point. Majchrowski, with his weird party affiliation status, he doesn't have maybe the opportunities to get the to pick up the phone and say, look, we need X number of people to go knocking on these doors to hand out these leaflets, to stand on this corner and talk to people. They don't have the party organization, the apparatus counts for a lot. And that's where PiS can really help out, Wassermann.
True. And also have to understand that PiS controls the media. It's brutal. It wasn't so bad a couple of years ago, but right now, when you turn on the public state channels, Jedynka, Dwójka, the radio, they're backing PiS all the time. They're just talking about their programs on a national level, campaigning all the time. And a lot of older senior people, like we were talking about, they don't have cable TV or satellite TV. They just have, free over-the-air TV.
That's a good point.
Which is often the state-run media or the radio.
We can look forward to TV1 supporting Wassermann and attacking Majchrowski pretty
Exactly,
mercilessly.
yeah. It's going to happen, especially closer to the election. But though there is one thing that people don't realize here, especially expats, that you really can't do any campaigning on the day of the election, from 24 hours before.
Cisza wybora, what's it
exactly. Cisza wybora. It's like election silence. Yeah.
Yeah, election silence. You cannot do any kind of promotion.
So you can't actually get buses.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about it. I like it in reality, but on paper, I have mixed feelings about it because I think you should be able to campaign to the last moment. But that also means you can't, say, get buses organized together with your party affiliation to drive over to the voting booths and get people to actually put that paper into the box.
With your machine guns.
Get on the bus, go vote now.
Oh, and I think actually, because we're talking a lot about the mayoral elections here, but there's a lot going on in the municipal race right now that people don't realize has changed. Like, he's brought in some changes when it comes to the actual way the voting works right now. So they want to actually bring in cameras, for instance, in the voting locations to monitor what's going on. To make sure no funny business was going around. They've changed the way the committees are set up. So now it's a separate committee that organizes the election in a given place, and then a different one that actually counts it.
Okay.
They also have to give the stats on how many, because right now, if you vote and you do something wrong, like you mark an X twice in one place, then your vote doesn't count. It gets thrown away.
There are lots of games to play when it comes to,
Yeah, and Peace got really
votes.
pissed off. They actually wanted to, this is funny because during the last round of local elections, they wanted to run to the EU, complaining about the elections here being fraudulent because they lost in a lot of places where they thought they should have won. The suggestion here was that another party called PSL had a lot of people in their committees. And what happens if, you have an election ballot in front of you that you're counting, it's not for the person you want. You just put a little mark of with a pen that nobody notices in your hand, a little mark on that paper somewhere on the corner. Oh, wait, sorry, this one's invalid because this person marked it twice. And apparently the percentage of votes that were counted at that time that were marked as invalid skyrocketed, especially in places where PSL won and Peace just barely lost. So that's where they got the suspicions from, and they wanted to bring in like a second committee of outsiders to count the votes right now. So, instead of PSL doing something funny.
So we've got a team from Zimbabwe.
Now we've got our own people to, fraudulently count.
I'm sure we can look
votes.
forward to the calm, reasonable, and efficient approach we've come to expect from Polish politics.
Yeah.
Go democracy.
Yeah. Let's watch out for the Russian interference too.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Because that's where the real threat comes from, I suppose. Well, that's going to do it for us this time. Like I said, 2 months till the election takes place. We'll definitely have updates, hopefully with Dr. Mike. Come back and talk to us before that time. We'll see what the numbers look like in a month or so. I just realized I think I forgot to introduce Josh at the top of the show. So Josh is over there on the mic, and he's also
I am. Saying very little.
He was there the whole time, actually. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for now. See you next time on the KrakCast.